I've been thinking about this question about how in history, when I have conversations with my father, he'll talk about his dad or his dad's dad. And it seemed as though they had less free time, but they didn't have the problems of anxiety, depression, boredom, unhappiness. I don't hear those stories. And nowadays, it appears that through innovation, we have more free time, but there's more depression, unhappiness, and anxiety. If you could elaborate on why that is.
Ever since human society began mass producing consumer goods, it enabled people to free up their time. And that is why before the Industrial Revolution, people had less free time just meeting their needs. And later on, this change in society enabled us to have more free time. Any kind of freedom is a privilege. Every privilege comes with a responsibility as well. When India became independent, the people who wrote the Constitution, with all their brilliance, they defined the fundamental rights of the citizen of India. But they forgot to mention the fundamental duties. And that is why, up until the 1970s and 80s, there used to be strikes everywhere. Everybody said we have the right to strike. But nobody said we have the duty to work. Right? So, any freedom is a privilege. Along with any privilege is a responsibility. If you ignore the responsibility, then you fall down beyond the normal levels. In other words, sometimes it is better to be in chains than to be free. So the freedom that modern society has afforded to humans by providing them with spare time is like a two-edged sword. You could use that time to get into trouble. You could use that time to indulge in vices and leading to the downfall of the soul, burning up your money, getting into all kinds of social problems, psychological problems, or we could use that time for the eternal salvation of our soul. When God or society has bestowed us with free time, it's not that, okay, now I can do what I like. To whom much is given, from him much is expected. If God has given us the facility where we don't have to bother about the tiny things for our survival and maintenance, then we must now rise to the responsibility of utilizing those privileges for our benefit, for the benefit of our soul, and for the benefit of all society. Consider time as a gift of God and make every moment count. Naradji in his Bhakti Darshan says, Kshanardhamapi vyarthe na neyam. Don't waste even a single moment. Thousands of years ago, Chanakya Pandit had said, Sahanis tanmahat chidram samoha savibhramaha yan muhurtam kshanam vapi vasudevam na chintayet. He said the biggest loss, the biggest tragedy, the biggest ruin in life is that moment which you did not utilize judiciously. That moment which you squandered and wasted away. Now think about all the wasteful activities we are doing. Unnecessary reading, unnecessary surfing, unnecessary games, unnecessary chit-chat and gossiping. If we wish to rise to the duty that God has bestowed upon us by giving us the privilege of free time, then we must cut it all out and utilize every moment properly.